Flashpoint Beyond, issue 6. Geoff Johns, Jeremy Adams, and Tim Sheridan writing with Mikkel Janin as Zermanico on the art. So,
all right.
a lot of big things.
Thing in issue 5. Let's get this out the way.
Then issue 5. Okay, Geoff Johns casually named the Joker. We forgot to talk about this. So in issue...
Wait, he did?
Yeah, in issue 5, he casually mentions... I can't remember who said it, but someone looked to see who the Joker was on the Flashpoint Earth, because obviously Joker is Martha, right?
Right.
But the guy who would normally be the Joker, he just casually mentions his name in issue 5, and he's got a wife and kid. It kind of basically it looked like the premise that Johns was going for is that the guy from The Killing Joke, this is him,
okay.
but instead of things going bad, he's with it. He stayed with his girlfriend and they had a kid.
The family, right? Yeah. Because he, yeah, that makes sense.
But they just kind of threw out a random name. And it's it doesn't really take away from the mystique of who the Joker is, really. But at the same time, it's kind of like a slap in the face. And not knowing who he is kind of part of the charm. It's part of the mystery.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, Jack Oswald White. Shoot. I forgot about that. And he works at the Wayne Casino.
Yeah. So
shoot. Well, I mean, in the sense of what Johns does with, telling stories across different multiverses, in the Flashpoint universe, that's the guy that would have become. But, Flashpoint only exists because of hypertime. Because as we've learned in, was it this one? There's so many different things going on right now. The difference between hypertime and the multiverse. Whereas the multiverse is not quite what is, but different planets across the multiverse and universe. Whereas hypertime is decisions that create parallel universes, and that's where Flashpoint is.
I'm already getting confused.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah. So in this, anyways, I thought this really, it gets very Johnsian at the end with a lot of these Easter eggs that we'll get to.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That just get thrown in at the end. But as for the story on what Flashpoint represents and why the Flashpoint universe was created, again, and who did it?
Again.
I thought it was, yeah. Well, it was all very fulfilling. I felt this was a story that 6 issues ago we were kind of poking fun at and seeing where the train wreck goes.
It's funny because you still have to get through some of the earlier silliness and what it's doing. Bizarrely though, the final point it's made about so the Time Masters are and we see more of that throughout this issue. Kind of keeps cutting back to them, but more of the Time Masters, Batman's arguing with Rip Hunter and Corky, and they're saying, "Hey, this snow globe, you've recreated the Flashpoint universe in there, so your father from the Flashpoint universe can still be alive." He's rejecting everything. He knows something's wrong, and that's what we've been seeing throughout the main story. Is that he's trying to change the world because he thinks it's wrong that he exists.
Right.
Basically, Batman did all this. And he's fighting off the Time Masters because he believes that ultimately Thomas can make a different choice by the end. That he's going to choose to be happy and do something for the right sort of reason by the end.
To accept the fact that Bruce is gone.
Yeah, right. Because it ties into the end of Flashpoint, which is we all saw that he got a letter from Thomas, but we never really got to hear the whole thing, right? This finally reveals what the letter said, and the gist of it and the important part of it was that Thomas finding out that there's a Bruce somewhere who is Batman. I kind of it kind of made me realize who I am and what I do, and that you always want better for your kids than what you have. So the idea that you're just doing what I do is actually that's not what I want for you. So how about wherever I am, I'll promise to try and get over it and be better and happy if you try and do the same. So Batman's trying to give this Thomas Wayne, even though it's not really his Thomas Wayne, he's trying to give this Thomas Wayne a chance of doing that. And ultimately, at the end of the story, which is Thomas rejects breaking time to go and try and save Bruce in his timeline with Martha, to instead save Harvey Dent's child, who he realizes will be erased from existence if they change the timeline. So it's about saving this kid instead of going back and selfishly saving their own that already died. Honestly, that's actually kind of heartwarming in a way that I didn't see coming, and I was I kind of like that. It's not bad.
I like that a whole lot, and the fact that so Joker, Martha Wayne is like, yeah, let's go. I killed all these time travelers, put together this time sphere. Let's go save Bruce. Let's make sure this never happens. He's like, yeah, but if we do that, Dexter never exists. And that whole moment when he comes to that thing and saves him from Gilda, him and Martha, it was this culmination of stuff. Because I was loving the whole Dexter thread. Like the fact that he's taking this kid and that his Alfred, who's the Penguin, is teaching him all these bad things.
It's suddenly him not caring about Dexter the whole arc and just saying, Penguin, take care of him.
Yeah.
In hindsight, is a really nice little touch that the whole arc he didn't care about him. And it's only here at the end when like this kid's like, oh, wait, I won't get to exist. Where he's like, oh, wait, no. Like, I can be better than this.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the way that they went with that, it was just... Was not expecting for Flashpoint beyond.
It's funny because you kind of feel like the whole time Batman's doing the Barry Allen thing where he's being selfish and trying to bring his father back. But in reality, what he's doing is he wants his father to realize that he can't go back and change things. That's the choice that he wants him to make the whole time.
Right. Because they point out that Flashpoint was created by Barry's grief for his mom and him trying to change that. And that's what they think that Bruce is doing, the Time Masters. And that whole discussion between Bruce and Rip, where Bruce is like, you don't know everything you think you do. You know, I like that moment too. Because as much as it gets on the, Batman has a plan for everything, in this place, his plan actually works out the way that he needs it to. And that he proves the Time Owners or the Time Masters wrong.
It's kind of like they're putting Batman's like planning and like figuring things out against actual time travelers who in theory should know what's going to happen.
Right.
And it's kind of funny that Batman was right. Like he planned for it.
Right. Well, it's the fact too that he's also putting all the hopes on, I think it is Thomas's choice ultimately.
I think that's why it doesn't feel like just like it's because Batman. It's more about him having faith in someone else to make the right choice. So it's actually, even though he's technically right and he banked on something that turned out to be true, he banked on something that was like a hopeful thing. He was hoping that his father would make the right choice, and that's what makes it sweet.
And then even at the end where they have Martha in the Batcave in a cell, because she is still the Joker, but they're gonna try to fix her.
And Dexter's officially the Robin.
And Dexter's Robin, and he's Batman, and they're gonna go, be this crime-fighting family for the Flashpoint universe now. It fits in with DC. It's one of these things where, we kind of, Flashpoint was a mess at points. But when King pulled out the Dr. Batman character and threw him into his whole run, it got even messier. And I love here that Sheridan and Adams and Johns are able to fold it back in with hyper time and whatever else and make it work.
Yeah, plus like there's a lot of teases here towards the end for stuff that Johns and maybe just other stuff that he knows is going to happen soon and all the planning, because the Time Masters are talking about stuff, and the lady threatens Corky with like a timeout during Bloodlines, and I'm like, Bloodlines? Yeah, there's a story coming up called Bloodlines, so these are things that Johns loves to throw in. It also mentions that Batman's going to have his hands filled with his mother's family soon. So again, they're teasing stuff that's coming in the stories. So that's cool.
So I took that as, is this the culmination of Ram V's Detective? That the whole Arkham? Yeah. Because Johns did love, in Earth 1. Was Earth 1? Is that the series? It's been forever.
As in the graphic novels?
Yeah, the graphic novels.
Earth 1, yeah.
Yeah. That she was an Arkham. But she's also Kane. And I'm wondering if this Arkham family that's coming from across the seas somehow is related to her.
Yeah, it could just be a tease for that, yeah.
Yeah, which if so, cool. Because they're tying all that in.
Yeah.
But then, these other time capsules that have failed, they're being pulled back into history. Yeah. This is stuff that they're trying to quarantine.
I assume this is set up for JSA, right? This
I would assume so.
Yeah.
With these names like the Golden Age, Mr. Miracle, right?
The Golden Age, Red Lantern, Ladybug, Betsy Ross,
Golden Age Aquaman.
Yeah. So it looks like a bunch of Golden Age versions of characters that are probably going to show up in GSA. And then there's another tease at the end here with this. Do you know who this character is? This young woman?
No. So this is the Watchmen universe, though, because that is
the cat thing,
right. But not just that, but that's the nostalgia, right? And here the nostalgia spills the scent.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they'll have to go find the Watchmen, and so this is where the Gary Frank art kicks in from Doomsday Clock.
Yeah, there's 2 pages to get, which makes me wonder, like, is he got a follow up for Watchmen planned for some point?
I don't know.
I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to use another thing from Watchmen, so I'm going to tease it at the end of this. It's another thing to get Gary Frank back to do the 2 pages. Like, that suggests to me that there's plans.
And again, for a follow up to Watchmen, right? I think Doomsday Clock is a pretty good. It's a very good story for a follow up to Watchmen.
Oh yeah, I love Doomsday Clock.
Right, but it doesn't have to be centered around Watchmen. This feels very much, I don't want to say a sequel, but a new take on Watchmen, because this is clearly another legacy character that is dressed in purple. We know Ozymandias was in purple, so is this Ozymandias' legacy? Is this the person that's going to kick off whatever else happens now?
Well, here's the question though: is it a follow up to Watchmen or is it a follow up to Doomsday Clock? Because those are, I think those are 2 very different things.
When I say I should say, is this a follow up to Doomsday Clock? Because I was going to bring up the Dr. Manhattan kid.
Yeah, I would be
who's still floating around.
I would be more inclined to say it's a follow up to Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday Clock, right?
Because I do think that's a very different distinction. Versus something like Tom King's Rorschach, which is just a follow up to Watchmen. So, I'm very intrigued by that. If this is something he's building to, obviously we got some JSA teases, which makes sense because we know that book's coming. I'm curious to see where this goes. I would just say it's something else from JSA if it wasn't for the fact that he got Gary Frank back to just do these 2 pages. The fact that he got Gary Frank back for these 2 pages makes me think there's a special project with him coming.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that they name drop the Watchmen, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the Watchmen, it's singular. Does it involve the Time Masters? What's behind that field? You know, is this person trying to free the original Dr. Manhattan? Right? Like, is this some timey-wimey type stuff? So yeah, I don't know. I was stoked. I got to that Gary Frank art because I saw his name at the front credits page, and I kept waiting. I'm like, when's Frank coming? And then it was there, and it looked like Doomsday Clock, and I got excited.
I think these teases from Johns are a lot more exciting because we know he's got another ongoing book starting. Because I think if he didn't, I would be like, oh yeah, but when's this ever going to happen? Because like, you know, when he did like that Stargirl one shot and it was like, oh, it teased some things. I'm like, yeah, but when? And you know, it's been so long and nothing still happened. You know, and maybe he'll follow up on those stuff, maybe he won't. You know, like, I feel like because we know he's got an actual ongoing book starting in the next month or 2, and because he's got another miniseries starting, it feels like he's actually back in some capacity where he will actually keep making stories and will actually pay this shit off. And because of that, I can actually be excited about this, which is nice. But because if he didn't have those things, I'd be like, okay, this is great, but I'm not going to get my hopes up because, you know, he was so intermittent for so long that it wasn't worth getting excited for anything after Doomsday Clock. But cool. But as someone who loves Doomsday Clock and loves JSA, I'm excited for all these things happening.
And just the idea too of the whole metaverse and what the metaverse meant to the JSA, as told in Doomsday Clock. They could be part of the same thing at this point. So I'm excited for whatever it is. I mean, I got really excited for those time capsule things because I love those little, you know, Easter eggs. It was like the when they hinted about the different Lantern Corps in the page of Green Lantern. You're like, oh, what's this? And it might ultimately be me building it up for something that isn't going to stick the landing. But the way it's presented here, it felt nice.
All right. What are you giving Flashpoint Beyond issue 6?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Ooh. Oh, that's yeah. I'm just gonna go straight 8, I think, on this. But it definitely conceptually turned into a really interesting story by the end, even though there was a lot of why are we doing this early on and a lot of weirdness to it. And some interesting teases. So I still say it's a bit messy overall, but I can't say that I wasn't into some of the concepts.